I'm making the argument that Smash on Broadway is less of a musical and more of a play with music. And that is because of the way it utilizes the iconic songs by Marc Shaiman and Scott Wittman. When we see the songs being performed, it's in the context of just a rehearsal or just like a sits probe or something like that. And it doesn't feel like the song is connected to the characters in any other way to help tell their story. Don't Forget Me is just used during the sits probe scene, and I thought that was really unfortunate. At the beginning of the show, when we see Let Me Be Your Star, that was awesome. I loved the opening of this show, and for the most part, I was really into it for the first couple of scenes. But overall, the big picture, I would say that this show feels way more like something you would see at a theme park, you know, like one that you just go to escape the heat and maybe see some of your favorite characters. That's what it kind of felt like, rather than something you would see on Broadway. And like I said, the music that Marc Shaiman and Scott Wittman created for Bombshell, the fictional musical in Smash, is incredible. I'm so impressed that these two were able to take this idea and make some songs that actually could work in a musical. I mean, I understand that's why so many people would want Bombshell, the musical, as opposed to Smash. But let me know in the comments, do you think a Bombshell musical could work? What did work in this production for me was the choreography by Joshua Bergasse. I thought that his choreography was incredible, and it was so nice because he did the choreography back for the series. And I'm sure some things were changed to accommodate doing it on a Broadway stage, but the choreography felt very reminiscent of the show, and I appreciated that because it was very fun to see some of those pictures that I remember. The musical numbers also had some of my favorite costumes by Alejo Vietti. I thought the costume designs were gorgeous, and not even just in the ensemble numbers, but also like during the rehearsal scenes. Everyone looked so good. Oftentimes I found myself looking at people being like, I'd like to buy that jacket, or ooh, those shoes are really nice. And you know, I do have to admit, although I'm not a fan that the show went in the style of parody, it was funny. There were funny moments. There were lots of laughs from my audience. There may be some people who feel the comedy in the show is a little too inside baseball or a little too industry related. I don't think that you have to be involved in the theater community to have a good time seeing Smash. I think there's enough humor for everyone to enjoy it. I want to make it very clear, though, Smash on Broadway is heavy on the curse words, so I wanted to let you know in case you were thinking of bringing children. Brooks Ashmanskas does a fantastic job as Nigel. At the start of the show, I was really nervous about the storyline that they were giving to him, but as it went on, I really ended up liking this character quite a bit, and his reactions to things on stage, his comedic timing was expert level. It felt like Brooks Ashmanskas was controlling the energy on that stage. Krysta Rodriguez and Tom Behlmann sort of play that Deborah Messing, Christian Borle writers team. However, in this version, these characters are married to each other, and I really felt that these two actors had great chemistry together. They were very funny. I liked their first scene, and there were actually some things that were mentioned there that I thought that the show was going to build itself around. I wouldn't have been mad at that. They had a really fun dynamic where they were trying to one-up each other in terms of the music that they were writing for the show. Jacqueline B. Arnold plays Anita, who is Bombshell's producer. She's very funny. I thought that her comedic timing was also excellent. Her assistant, Scott, played by Nicholas Matos, he does a nice job. It's a pretty generic character. The running gag with this character is that he doesn't know a lot about musical theater and musical theater history. So, you know, there's that. Bella Coppola, who plays Chloe, absolutely stood out to me in this production. I thought she was fantastic, and her character feels the most like it came from the TV show. I think I like her so much because she's basically the only character that has a very clear goal that she is trying to achieve. Her story does sort of get dropped in Act 2 a little bit. I wish they fleshed out her story a little bit more. I just listed a lot of things that I enjoyed about this production, so why is it that I left the theater feeling so disappointed? Well, that's because I am a fan of the original show from 2012, and it's not perfect. We all saw season 2, but it really inspired me growing up, and I was hoping that this show would sort of feel like a celebration of it, and at points it doesn't even feel like the creative team actually enjoys the source material, which is a shame because so many people who are going to see the show are doing it because they watched Smash, and I'm not sure how Smash fans are going to react to how Ivy and Karen are portrayed here. If anything, I think it's best not even to think of them as Ivy and Karen from the original TV show. They should have changed their names. You know, instead of doing Ivy and Karen, they're completely different characters. This isn't Ivy and Karen. This is Irene and Kathleen. Before I go any further, I want to make it very clear. I enjoyed the performances of Robyn Hurder and Caroline Bowman. Robyn Hurder, best I've ever heard her sing, and she's a very talented vocalist, but dancing has always been her forte, and they make use of her dance skills a lot. She was very good. Caroline Bowman also sings the house down. But I think the script really messes up the characters here. Instead of being a professional performer that is unable to level up from the ensemble to a principal role like she was in the TV show, Ivy here is reimagined as already being a Broadway star. And again, this is no connection to the TV show. So all of those events did not happen here. They make her out to be like on the same level as, say, Kelly O'Hara and Sutton Foster or something along those lines. But I just think it makes the character feel more unrelatable. And if you still think that this is the same character from the TV show, get ready for a major character assassination. We barely get to see Ivy, and that is because of this character, Susan. I have an issue with this character, but that's not because of the actress. Kristine Nielsen plays Susan in the show, and she is very funny in the role and makes it work as best as she can. But this character, even visually, sticks out like a sore thumb. And unfortunately, much like she gets Ivy to slow down the scenes in Bombshell, she also slows down the scenes in Smash. And I was upset with Ivy. They make her out to be this professional who's done lots of Broadway shows in principal roles. And yet she's listening to Susan, and I'm like, Ivy, you know all of this is wrong. Why are you doing this? I think that they were trying to make reference to Marilyn Monroe's acting coach, even just in the way that she is dressed, but it just does not work. And also the way that Ivy and Susan work on Marilyn together, they portray her as very mean, like surpassing diva status, just like a very mean person. And I've heard that Marilyn has been labeled as needy or has been labeled as difficult, but I've never heard anyone refer to Marilyn as mean before. So I thought it was strange that these characters perceived Marilyn in that way. I'm not sure how people are going to react to this character. I definitely had a negative reaction. Again, not to the actress, but to the actual character itself, how it is scripted. And then we have Karen, who is essentially a downgraded version of her on-screen counterpart. In this version of the show, she is Ivy's understudy and has been Ivy's understudy on many past productions, so they are very close friends. And it was very sad to see Karen sidelined in this way. We don't even get to see her perform in full Marilyn getup. Karen is such an important part of the TV show. She's one of the main characters, but here she is downgraded to supporting, and I just think that is such a shame. One thing that I really did like about this version of Karen is that she showcases understudy work in a very positive light. This character is hardworking, is dedicated, very much a professional, and it feels like she can step in at any moment to save the show. If only we got to see her do it. Here is a view from my seat. I had a really great view of the stage and good legroom. I bought my ticket in advance because I really wanted to make sure I had a good seat. After all, I am very fond of the show and was hoping I'd be fond of the musical, but that's not the case, unfortunately. So, should you see Smash before it closes? Well, if you are a fan of theater and maybe you haven't seen Smash, but you do like performing or you do like seeing theater, then, you know, it's a show about putting on a show. I'm sure that there is stuff in here that you will find funny. If you are a Smash fan, I do feel like curiosity will get the best of you, so it might be worth seeing just so you can form an opinion on it. And if you are not a fan of theater and you have never watched Smash, I have no idea how you made it this far in my video, but thank you for staying around. I think there are other options currently playing on Broadway that may be more of interest, but if you are open-minded and you are okay with a more of a parody of a show, then you may have a lot of fun here. Those are my thoughts on Smash, now playing at the Imperial Theater. I would love to read your thoughts in the comment section below. I would also really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater-related content on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay off your phone while at the theater.